everybody for coming today. Hopefully I won't take more than 10 to 15 minutes of your time, so we'll have plenty of time for a panel discussion. I would just like to present to you a short finding, or maybe not short findings, but somewhat insightful findings from a compilation of Ipsos global and also local studies that we did surrounding around ESG, around general sentiment of Thailand. So hopefully it will be insightful and gives you some thought-provoking ideas to move forward. Okay. As PR alluded a while ago, that let's look at ESG in terms of macro context first, because obviously, regular people, unlike us, they don't really go around and think about ESG all the time. But that doesn't mean that it's not an area of concerns for them. So this is a survey that we did earlier in the year on what worries Thai the most. So as you can see, the top areas actually touch upon ESG. Yeah, so we have poverty, we have inflation, and climate changes. So even though they don't think of it in terms of ESG, it's not that it's not their concern, it's still their number one concern on it. So what does this actually mean for us as a company, as a brand? As also people alluded to, that it's not only government responsibility anymore that consumers are looking to, right? So when we did another survey, so this is from Ipsos Global Survey done among Thailand. So basically, we had an opportunity to make a difference. We had an opportunity to make a positive impact of it. As you can see that majority of consumers actually feel that yes, brands can be a force for good. That they now expect more out of company rather than just selling them products. And simultaneously, they also feel that they also have good intentions to make a difference. So they want to buy brands that act responsibly. So that's also in their conscience as well. Yeah. So this is also in line with what we have found in our global studies. So this is done across all successful brands all over the world. So we found that there are 3 common characteristics that successful brands have. Yeah. So it's not just about fulfilling me at the moment of truth anymore. So it's not just about having products that's solving my problems anymore, but consumers are now expecting brands to go beyond that. So not only will you solve my products, but what kind of role will you have in terms of bringing families or within my community? What kind of role do you have? And beyond that, what kind of roles do you do for the society as a whole? Are you a force for good for society, or are you just a brand that sells products and doesn't think about anything else? Yeah. So all of these are playing into consumers' mind. We have a little, I'm not sure if anybody of you did the little Menti survey that we have posted up, but if you do, here are the results of it. Why are we focusing on sustainability? So basically what we found is that sustainability is a term that sort of encapsulates ESG, right? So people doesn't know what to say, ESG may not be familiar to many people, so they lump it all together within sustainability. Say that together. So they lump it all together within ESG. Yes, so under the umbrella of sustainability. But what exactly does sustainability mean? Especially if your brand or your company is going to make that part of the communication. What does it really mean? Does it mean the same to you? Does it mean the same to your target audience? Now, as you can see, even when we've done polls within this room who are quite familiar with ESG, we also have a different definition of sustainability. Yeah? So some say it's about affordable and clean energy. Some say it's about encouraging business to do less harm to the environment. Some is what PR also said is ending poverty and inequality. Yeah? So this is quite crucial because if you want to incorporate this keyword into your communication, but you and your audience have different terminology or different definition of it, then that's a cause for concern at the start. And this is also what we found among Thai consumers as well. I hope you can see the small text here. But when it comes to sustainability amongst Thai people, yeah, it's not renewable energy is not about environment that tops their concern. It's basically about how to better the society. So basically, sustainability for many of the Thai is about ending poverty and reducing inequality. It's about promoting education equality. Not surprisingly, so if you remember the slide I showed you earlier about what worries Thais the most, it's mostly about social issues, right? So in their mind, how can we be a sustainable society if we still have a big disparity in terms of standard of living, in terms of income gap, right? So this is what their concerns was. And if you talk to them about sustainability, thinking that they will take out clean and renewable energy, then this is quite a surprise coming in. Yeah. So what roles and responsibility do businesses have in terms of each aspect of the segment? So this is the survey that we did also amongst Thais. So we asked them, which business sectors do you feel have the most roles or responsibility to play in terms of each of these individual aspects? So if you look at the environmental, not much surprises there. People feel that it's energy and automotive that is the most responsible or have the biggest role to play in terms of protecting, conserving the environment. The picture then shifted when we talk about social. Social then becomes FMCG and finances that have the biggest role to play, especially if they are facing hard time. What does the FMCG sector can do to help consumers? What does banking can do to help alleviate the consumers' problems? Yeah? And for governance, it's basically split out across sectors of it. So now that's the role and responsibility of it. In terms of actions, what consumers would like to, what consumers expect from businesses to, what consumers expect businesses to do in terms of tackling environmental problems. So we also asked them this question. And as you can see, the top three are actually waste reduction, eco-friendly packaging, reduced greenhouse gas emission. Yeah. The most interesting data in this slide is not really what consumers say, but what they don't really say of it. So if you look at the top three of it, it's a very superficial dimension, or it's a very superficial solutions that consumers have. Let's take a look at reduced greenhouse gas emission, right? You only have 25% said reduce deforestation. But if you reduce deforestation, it actually has an effect on improving or lessening greenhouse gas emissions, right? So it's a cause and effect thing. But for consumers, they don't really link it as a cause and effect. It's more of a keywords that they take out. So the implication of this is that if your CSR is thinking about doing reforestation, that may not mean that much to consumers. It probably means that, okay, it's a reforestation, everybody's doing it, but you also have to incorporate the end result for them to actually see that, yes, I am doing this because I want to help alleviate this problem. Yeah. And I think one of the key communication for our panelists is reduce deforestation. So that's a harder task for the brand to communicate successfully to consumers. And just to wrapping up on the environmental part, so the survey that we did, we also asked them about electric vehicle, because if you remember that consumers do think that automotive has a big role to play in terms of protecting the environment. So I don't think it surprised anybody, because I think if you ask around, many would like to buy an electronic vehicle, right? We want to buy an EV. But for some reasons, intention does not really equate to actions, right? So why would that be? Now, the intention is good. The intention for the consumers is that, yes, they want to help the environment. Some say they want to lessen the petrol cost. But the reasons not to buy is also about, if we want to sell something, then we need to build an infrastructure for them as well. Yes, so it's not just about putting in the marketing context, it's not just about commercializing, but it's also about how can we enable them to do it as well. Yeah. So reasons not to buy, not surprisingly, is insufficient charging station and also the expensive price of it. Yeah. Now for the the automotive one, this is very similar to the US findings earlier last year, where they also faced this problem. And one of the biggest issues or one of the persuasive factors that they have is that when you talk about them, don't focus on like environment. We're going to save the environment. That's so far away from consumers that they don't think about it. But how can you transfer them to what they can save in their pockets right now? Yeah. Compared to petrol, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, what are the savings that we're going to have? So think of it in terms of what they will get, and environment as a co-benefit of it instead. Wrapping up on the social perspective, so I think everybody, when we ask what consumers want from companies to do in terms of social, better employees benefit, improving working conditions, equality. So not a lot of disparity there. And same thing for governance as well. So everybody must be paid fairly, but also the important thing is about doing transparency and also corruption and bribery. Yeah, so those are the key things that consumers want to see companies do more of in terms of governance. And when we talk about transparency, it becomes somewhat of big for the banking. So now we are asking consumers looking to invest in a bank. So anybody who is likely to invest their money in the next year, what kind of banks would they like to invest in? What are some of the characteristics? Now, when we did this, I think we were thinking that past financial results would be one of the key factors in terms of people looking to invest in a bank. But that doesn't turn out to be this. Basically, it's how your bank does business. Is it transparent? Does it have credible reputation? And also, some people are actually, and this is much more towards the younger generation, support green companies. Right? So are you doing banking, or are you providing loans to fossil fuels company, or are you providing loans to green companies and promoting that? That also plays into their mind when it comes to deciding which banks to invest in. So we're talking about, a lot about perspective and all. Now we also have perspective versus reality part of it. And anybody who did a survey, so basically reducing greenhouse effect, what actions do they think would have the biggest impact? Not surprisingly as well, I think many people, not only in Thailand but globally, also think that recycling is the best way to tackle climate change. Yeah. Not the case. Not close. So globally, and also I put in parentheses the Thailand percentage as well, people tend to overestimate low impact changes while underestimate big impact changes. So this could be because recycling is the easiest thing to do. So, and I think we have been taught for many years that recycle. But it actually doesn't rank that high. It's almost at the bottom in terms of ranking reducing emissions. So what we are doing, and we're thinking that this can help the world, or this can prevent climate change, it really doesn't. It actually ranks at the bottom. So as you can see, anything that requires change in behavior, change in habit, people tend to put that as not so important, but it actually turns out to be the most important part. Right, so living car-free, public transportation, buying fewer or more durable items. Yeah, so those are the key things that actually make the biggest impact of it. Yeah. So why is this important? So it's important because one, if you really want to make changes, like true changes, relying on just recycling products is not going to be enough. Right, so we have to actually educate ourselves first, and also educate consumers as well that what they can do to help prevent climate disaster further. One of the interesting part that we have, or offerings that we have at Ipsos is actually the sustainability segmentation, and this is the global study that was done earlier this year. I think the Thailand version will come in later this year. Yeah. So Now, what sustainability segmentation does is actually gives you a bit of an idea on where your target audience lies in terms of environmental awareness and habits. Right? So this is basically if you want to launch a product that is so environmental friendly, but then your audience is sort of like a denialist on environment, then that would be a lost cause for it. Yeah. So now the global studies is actually, it's pretty evenly split out, so I'm just going to take you through quickly on the 5 segments of it. So we have the activists here. So activists is basically, I would pay premium price no matter what, as long as it's ecological friendly. You can show your hand if you're an activist here, or not. Pragmatics is actually, okay, I'm concerned about the environment, but may not be the hardcore activist, but I would also pay a premium price as well, yeah, for the sake of the environment. Maybe not too high a price, but we'll pay a price for it. Then you probably have the conflicted contributors, which is basically, I want to save the environment, but when it comes down to it, I'm just going to pick the budget brand one. So not willing to pay the price, intention is there, budget may not be there, so you're the contributors for this one. The busy bystanders, I want to do something for the environment, but I don't really want to change my habits. So if your product is not where I shop, I'm not going to go out of my way to shop for you, right? And then you have the disengaged denialist one, which is basically, I don't really care about the environment. So just give me the cheapest and the best product, and it could be so toxic, I don't really care. Yeah. And fun fact, I was talking to Jamie, the disengaged denialist is actually highest in the US of A. Yes. So that's where we can find the most denialists in the world. So basically, this gives you a sort of like a brief look at consumers across the environmental spectrum on where your targeted consumers lie. And this is actually very useful if you want to map out your pricing or maybe communication strategy. Because if you look at the 3 segments here, the contributors, the bystanders, and the denialists, basically you cannot go in with the proposition that sustainability is the #1 factor. They will not buy your product or be interested in your product ever. So sustainability then becomes the co-benefit of your core brand message. Yeah. For the activists and pragmatists, they don't really care much about the core brand message. They do know what it is, but they just want the additional benefit of how can you help them change the world? How can you make them make the world better? It's not easy, do you agree? Yeah, so, just to wrap it up, human behaviors are probably the hardest things to change of it right now. So I think like we've touched upon before, you may have a great product, it can be so ecological friendly, but if it's hard to use, if it's hard to find, if it's expensive, then most likely it won't take off. Yeah. So, and I hate to say it, but I'm going to bring in the EV again. If we don't build the infrastructure for them, if we don't give them that incentive or that attraction in the first place, they can have all the good intentions that they want, but your products won't go anywhere. Because in the end, it probably be like, why do I need to go out of my way to find a charging station, right, where I can just save money on that and go buy some petrol? Yeah, so when we think about having an ESG plan or anything, also not just putting burden on the consumers, but we also have to give them infrastructure, we also have to give them conveniences or some incentive to actually change their behavior. And one of the things that we find out is that if you try to change their behavior so drastically, it won't happen either. So changes often comes in minimal changes continuously over time. Yeah. So what can Ipsos do, or what can Ipsos help you to do? So we actually have a 5 steps framework. So depending on your ESG, we actually have about 100 solutions. So I'm not going to go through 100 solutions. I'm just going to show you a framework and how we can help you through each of the ESG steps. So from the baby steps on where you don't know where to go, you don't know where your consumer is in terms of sustainability journey, so we have the orientation program, up to the evaluations, where you want to, yes, I have some sort of ESG plan, but I want to know if my consumers know about it, if I am on the right path. So we also have metrics on this one too. And one of the unique metrics that we have is specifically the ESG Tracking Sustainability Index. So it tells you 4 things about this. So basically, it will give you a sustainability index versus competitions. It will also break down on where you are in terms of environment, social, and governance from consumers' perspective. So you will also get this along with your competitors as well. And it also identifies basically which E, S, or G is most important to your industry, right? And are you on the right path for it? Is your communication working? And all that jazz. And last but not least, we also have thought leadership every month that our global has done. Some include global surveys, some also include Thailand survey as well. So you can sign up for this, and every month you'll get our Ipsos global leaders on sustainability. So you can look at the global trends on some of the barriers that companies are facing, or any of the victories that they made along the way. Yeah, so I'll just review.
One of the things that was really interesting, right, is that there was a lot of inconsistency in how people think about ESG. And part of the challenge that we saw even in that segmentation is that to be considered ESG friendly today, it means that I need to pay. Right? There is a perception among consumers that to be green, to align with ESG, that it's going to cost me more. And so part of what we're hoping to do in our panel discussion today is to help to educate, to help to begin in a very sort of proud way the conversation about what ESG is, so that we can raise the understanding among our stakeholders, among our buyers, among society as a whole, so that more people understand why this is important. So we're going to start off with having each of our panelists join us one at a time. They're going to spend a few minutes just to share their point of view about their role and ESG in their organizations, and then I'll invite them back for the panel discussion. I have some questions. I've let them all know they're easy questions, but then we will take some questions from the floor as well and give you a chance to hear those perspectives. So Kun Satien, I'm going to ask you to come up and to start us off.
My role is successfully in SDX. SDX now there is maybe a holding company, and we call it that. And one of our subsidiaries is SCB Bank. So the way we run the ESG, or the way we run the successabilities, I think is very unique of other industry. If you see a lot of issues come from the manufacturers, especially for the climate change and other things. So in bank, if you see the research that people may concern a little bit about bank, but I think bank play the role of influencer to the ESG because we hold the money. And I think the money can change a lot of things in terms of financial, in terms of financing, lending, and other things. And my key role in ESG, I think we have two things. One is the financial inclusion, and that I think Thailand have a big issue about the income inequalities. If you understand that, we have a very high rate of household debt, and it takes around 20 years ago. And we do a lot of things about financial literacy, but if you see that, but the rate of the high household debt is growing up every year, and that it shows us that a big failure in financial literacy. Another issue that is a big issue of the SCPX is the climate tech, or maybe I would say climate change is a big issue of us. So we do a lot of things around the climate tech, try to do and try to make the situation better. I think for the climate issue, most of people are not aware because it looks like a frog eater boiling waters in the boiling pot. But I think it could be a big issue in near future. So, and SCPX do as a tech companies as well. We think how can technology try to make the climate change can solve it in what way. So the big issue is technologies, and we try to explore a lot of technology. We invest in many funds, especially the biggest funds in the world, CPT funds, especially the climate tech fund, and we learn a lot from that. And I think we try to think what the fund support all the companies to do a lot of things to make the climate situation better. This is I can give you a very deep, but I think from the research I saw a lot of issue that when we talk about the climate issue, we think about the recycle that is not the root cause. I think it's very simple, especially for the EV situation in Thailand. I saw a lot of EV buyers in Thailand. They understand that EV can change the world, can make the green energies, but if you understand, electricity right now is not from the green energies. So we have a butterfly effect. We do a lot of things, and we still not solve all the problems. I can make it short.
That was wonderful, and I have some questions I'll save them for the other panelists.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if it's okay, Sherry, I can ask you to join us as well, and welcome. So, Sherry, it's going to be a chance for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about the work you're doing.
Oh, okay. I don't want you to reflect the research.
Not yet.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to be here today. May I have a brief introduction of Suri Thai? Many of you may know that I'm an actress, but many don't know about what I'm doing in the environmental field. I've been working in the environmental field for around 8 years, and I've learned from hands-on experiences that to tackle the environment problems, I need to cope with the deforestation problem, which very low percentage from the research, right, that people are interested in. And the agricultural methodology plays a significant role in doing so. So I started to work for the environmental non-profit projects 8 years ago, and I know that to make it sustainable, I need to make it sustainable in all dimensions, including financial aspects. So I started my social enterprise 3 years ago. I want to tackle the deforestation problem, of course, and I want to support Thai farmers who apply regenerative agriculture or responsible farming. So this is a very brief. Is it okay? Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing.
Yes.
Let's put them on. Maybe they can ask you to come up. Welcome, come on.
สวัสดีครับ
Okay, so
So we have, I think maybe by way of quick intro, support. So I'm from Nestle Waters, and good to see many, I think, industry peers in the FMCG here. Probably my take, coming also from a different industry, and the moment I say I'm from waters business, everyone's like, the evil. Yeah. So I think that's been my journey, because I think at the end of the day, for me, at least personally, waters is quite, it tells the whole story of ESG, right? And definitely also I'm a traditionally marketing background of FMCG, and now I'm wearing the ESG hat. So I would say I've seen two sides which don't normally kind of sync together, right? Because in the marketing FMCG world, we talk ROI, right? And green water, and sustainability is expensive, right? So I mean that always creates that friction, and I think probably I hope today I'll be able to share, and of course looking at the research, there is a fair bit of synergy that can be done. But today, of course, I think at the end of the day, the consumer is still quite far away, right? There is small steps, simple things that they can digest, and how that comes back into the brand story. But at the end of the day, I think transparency is key, right? Because most of us in the industry, we are big players. Everyone is looking at us for these very impactful experiences, and at the end of the day, to make a start, right? I mean, you cannot be wrong. You can be wrong if you just wait and see where is it going. Should I come in? Should I not come in? I think that is the worst thing you can do today. And at least I can speak as Nestle kind of veteran, I would say, 10 years. We are moving the wheel, but always constantly learning. And I hope with the panelists today and also looking at the data, we can exchange a bit more two-way kind of discussion.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much for coming on. And then finally, please allow me to introduce Kun Kieran from Ipsos.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Turn on, please.
Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Hi. My name is Kiran. I'm from Ipsos. So thanks for Usana for organizing this and inviting me. I flew down from KL yesterday. So I'm excited to meet most of you and so on. So Kun Pinta asked me what does ESG mean to me. I was thinking long and hard, and I put this picture, Rage Against the Machine, the Battle of Los Angeles. If you guys don't know who's Rage Against the Machine, is one of the punk rock groups in Los Angeles. And why I chose this image is because when I went first time to work in Los Angeles many years ago, it was my first experience about social inequalities, right? It was my first experience coming from Malaysia or rest of Asia and so on. The disparity is not as great as we go to, say, a place like Los Angeles. Many of you know there's a street called Skid Row there. It is worse than, it is so scary to even go there. Okay, it's like a matter of living dead zombies and so on. So it hit me hard and long about social inequality and so on. So I think that to some extent has changed me over the years. So I'm part of Strategy 3 Advisory Group in ESG space itself. we help companies to strategize the roadmap, their direction for ESG, but also we activate the action plans. Right? And we have done a lot of ESG related work because there's no one clear definition what ESG work is. But let me share with you something we did very cool and very interesting. We didn't make a lot of money on that project, but it was joy for us to do it. It's about saving Malaysian tigers. And I told the team, hey, we just don't want to sit down on pen and paper and tell them what to do. We want to activate. So they say, boss, what does that mean by activate? I said, you can spend 2 weeks in the jungle. And they actually did it and so on, right? So in Ipsos and Ipsos S3 and so on, we help companies to strategize and activate the ESG action plans. Just one small thing, I think Guru Pintai mentioned that there's a lot of intention, right? There's a lot of intention, and 78% people want to do good. I believe that, okay? Because I also want to do good, right? But there's a bit of a say you get translating from intention to action. From our research and our findings with a lot of companies, the biggest challenge is that the action plans or the tactical action plans is not based on outside perspective. They really don't understand exactly the customer base, the society, what they need, the nuances beyond the headlines. So that's why we see a say-do gap. So we're getting more and more requests these days to really understand what this ESG sustainability mean to the community. Yeah, it's very local. It's very local, right? One last fact before I pass it to Jamie is that we did a global ranking of societies, right? Most of the Asian societies in Southeast Asia, they are more in the stage of economic development, where they are more, they want to maintain what they have right now, not advocate certain things, but at the same time do good. So we need to understand the cultural, economic, society, where they are, the macro context and micro context also. Over to you, Jim.
That's great. Thanks so much, Gary. So I think maybe just a bridge between Pintai sharing, there was lots of numbers in that deck, and we can all go through that afterwards. But I'm sure as you were seeing those consumer and citizen opinions, that something jumped out, whether it jumped out as a surprise or it jumped out as something that resonated, that sort of aligns with the work that you're doing and the things that you're seeing. So maybe you can share just sort of one item that came out of that sharing that really stuck with you. So it's something to start with.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not surprised much, but I think it's good that I see that the people like to use the bank that support green business. That's I totally agree. I think it should be good for us. I go in the right track. One of the I think more as a financial aspect, I think income equality is very important issue that should make the Thailand get worse in terms of the household debt, and that's why Bank of Thailand try to launch a lot of regulation. But if you see the evidence that we also see the growth of the household debt rate, it means like Thai people still spoil and use the money not efficiency or not have any disciplines. I think in terms of banking, we also support or provide so many digital lendings through wallet, through mobile application, and the people can access the financial lending or financial or digital lending from the mobile easier, but it can replace a sharp loan in one day, and it should be better than in that way. But the way to have the financial literacy should be intense and should make the people to have the discipline to use the money. I have one day traveled to pass through the small village I see a small house, but have a very big car, 2 or 3 big car in front of the house. It means like they use the money in the right way. And this is my perception. So trying to collect the perception is not easy in this moment. Another thing is that I turn back to the climate issue, climate tech issue. This also is a big issue in this moment, and it should be affect to our grandson, our son in the near future. I think this should be a big problem that we should solve. And as a bank, we try to support all the SME and Big Corp. I don't worry about Big Corp. I think Big Corp, they have their own footprint, their own carbon footprint, and they do a lot of things to do. But for the SME and other things, they still don't understand around the carbon footprint. So you don't know about climate, what should be impact to them? They don't know. And you don't ask the people to do good in terms of they don't understand what is the good thing to do. This is the key. So back to the basic, you should understand what the carbon footprint you own, and I have a small session with my staff. I let them do the carbon footprint themselves, and they come and see us. They're saying that this month I produce how many carbons, and if I need to reduce the carbon, how many trees should be planted. This is the process effect that they should do it by themselves. And how can all the people understand this?
I have a good question.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of our colleagues are also struggling in how to do that within their own organizations. Thank you so much. Contrary for you, there's lots in there in terms of sort of what consumers and citizens think. What jumped out to you?
I wanted to say that our company's core value is to tackle the deforestation problem, right? And also to innovate social inclusion, because we reckon that to eradicate poverty is the sustainable way, like sustainable solutions to tackle the environmental problems. So we believe that to work with the communities and to support them, to expand their market, to create more value for agricultural products is the key success factors for us. And to do so, I think it helps our customers see what our objectives are, and they support us. They have our brand's value, our brand's perception, have differentiated from our competitors. So I think ESG is the way that we can apply and create values for our companies, and also to create the long-term opportunities for our companies as well, because we have to admit that climate change, which we should change the term into climate crises and also climate boiling, we can't deny that we have to deal with this situation. So to plan ahead or to create policies and legislation to support your businesses is unavoidably. At last, we have to do so. So the way that we can be aligned to our customers should be communication. communication is the key success factor. Also that we need to tell our customers why our products are different from others. We have a lot of stories from the agricultural products, where it's from, how the forests surrounding our rice paddy fields. We have to tell about this story regarding chemicals uses and the ecosystem and biodiversity protection in the communities. We have to communicate all this, and also we have to tell all about the intricate details of our products. Because like our product, we are concerned about the packaging, that we use clear plastic bottles instead of use the plastic bags. As some of you may know, that in Thailand, the plastic bags are difficult to go back into the recycle system sometimes. If the waste has value, selling or rubbish collectors will keep it and sell back to the recycle factories. That could manage the ecosystem of recycle to be efficient, because many of garbage was left over, maybe from the landfills, and couldn't get back into the recycle process. So, and also our packaging use the labels from 100% recycled paper, which produced from renewable energy, easy to take off, and everything have a lot of details. So we need to communicate why customer may need to pay an extra to buy our product. But what they receive from this, we need to explain, how it's good for the environment, how it's good for the societies, and this is how we operate our social enterprise. And I think when customers know that there are some green premium, I don't want to say there's a green premium, but we have to admit that there is. But if we include the environmental aspects into this, it's not that expensive. It's a lot cheaper when we protect before the catastrophe happens.
That's great. Thanks so much, Ken. Kunal, for you.
For me, I think the data that jumped out, and I can relate because I've seen it in many forums, is people are willing to pay more for more planet-friendly products. And here I'm a bit probably rightly skeptical, my experience. And I think it comes down fundamentally because we are looking at a bit more aggregated data. But if we had to kind of slice them into different generations, that emerges much stronger. That's why I'm quite waiting to see your full Thailand report, because there is, at least in our experience in Nestle, definitely there are a lot of people in general, like you said, people want to do good. Okay, we are good humans by nature. Okay, but if you are asking me to pay a little bit more to get the very ESG positive, it's not going to happen. At least not yet, but it's coming, and we can see it in the next generation, the Gen Z. So if we were talking about previously, the digital natives, these are going to be the eco-natives, right? And they don't only vote with their wallet, because right now they don't have money so much, right? So they're going to vote with their voice. okay? And you will hear them, right? Across the ESG spectrum. That's why I think as marketeers, probably we need to be a bit granular. The people who can pay, the Gen X, Gen Y, don't want to pay, not now, right? So I'll give you an example, right? In Nestle Water, just 2 months ago, we rolled out Recycle PT. Recycle PT is a big step in Thailand. I mean, we are the first kind of water brand to launch it. Pepsi has launched it. I think the fun of ESG is the planet is the stakeholder, right? So I think it's nothing so much about competition as long as you're doing right for the planet. What happened when we launched it and consumers are like, PET is already 100% recyclable. You see? The granularity, recyclable versus recycled. It's a big difference. And from the consumer lens, you don't see it easily.ผลิตจากพลาสติกรีไซเคิลกับนำไปรีไซเคิลได้ right? So I think, and then consumers are like, I thought that's been like forever, right? So I think that and of course it's expensive. And the consumer perception was the other way. Oh, it's made from recycle. It's cheaper, right? Why don't you reduce the cost? I think there's this constant kind of paradox that you need to navigate. It's not going to be easy. There is going to be that pushback, and then that's why it takes an industry to move the needle, right? I mean, that's why for us, Pepsi is using it, super. We are using it. Good start. Then we wait, right? That more brands will come on board, and then we educate. Because at the end of the day, today, frankly, in the decision tree, sustainability is right there. Right there. Right? You can track in your brand equity, I am guessing, will be very, very low. Do people feel it's important? Yes. But in my decision, price, promotion, brand, taste, right there, right? The moment we will reach that critical mass, which is not too far off, I think, in Thailand, is when you put all those other factors equal, and this company is doing right for the planet, I'll give you. So it's coming. Right, and we are seeing more of that in the younger audience, but I think we are aging society, right? People are living longer, right? So I think that constant balancing of these two kind of spectrums is what is going to dictate the story from here. That's my take.
Just a quick tech favor for the panelists. I think we're getting some feedback. So maybe we're not speaking, we can try to turn off our microphones and see if that reduces a bit. Okay, quickly, from here over to you. In terms of the findings, anything that jumped out?
I'm going to talk about the findings because I think the findings you can read what you mean there also. And there's nothing very new here. It's interesting, gives a new perspective, but anybody who's been looking at the ESG and so on, they will see that it just validates some of our thoughts and so on. Am I right? But what I'm happy to hear is that in one of the action plans in our strategy when we advise companies is to make sure your ESG action plans are credible. So when SCB mentioned about financial literacy, for example, that is credible. To me, it's credible. It's judged with what SCB does. You know what I mean? They're not trying to save the planet or whatever. You know what I mean? In a small way, but they do something credible, which is financial literacy. And he judges with what Sherry is mentioning. The only way we can solve the sustainability issue is with social inclusion, right? If you reduce the income level, the income disparity between the rich and the poor and so on, because at the moment there's a premium for green. Very likely enough, there's a premium for green, am I right? And companies have to do good but still outperform the market. So Nestle has to do good but still they have to worry about the stock price and then so on. Am I right? Likewise, Ipsos. So don't go dark green, but go in Asian context light green. Okay, that's what I would say. You know what I mean? Being practical. Okay, being transparent and so on.
I think one of the things that came up in all of your discussions were around sort of the Thai people, right? The dichotomy of the Thai people. There's a perception maybe that the young generation will save the planet. There are other people who say they will, but we also need to look at the other generations. We need to find ways to get them to activate. What are your thoughts on sort of that differences across the generations, and any thoughts on how you engage them?
I would say like this. If we see the EV industry right now, just only 1 year, you have seen the pricing of the EV industry in Thailand. Why this EV coming up very fast? I think we have so many reasons. People need to do good. I think by instinct, people need to do good, but not at the premium price. I'm not sure. I'm not in the situation that people still have no money. They don't pay more. But for the EV, we have the competitive car pricing. If you see that right now the EV car is reachable, is affordable. It's not like in the last 5 years or 10 years, the EV car is like a toy of the rich people. It's not affordable. Another issue is the pricing of the gas. The pricing of the gas is accelerating them to change. Another reason is the incentive from the government. This is the key. Another key things that I think the government should do a lot of things, try to accelerate and support the EV industry and ESG business if we need to be green. But if you need to accelerate the EV industry, I put it as an example. If you need to totally change, you should have the carbon tax. If you have a carbon tax, I will say that the industry will change very fast, and the people, you have a carrot and stick, right? You have a carrot, you have incentive, you have a fuel price that coming up, but you also have a penalized from the carbon tax if you produce a lot of carbon in the street. This is an example, and I think this moment it should be good for maybe we have a new government that understand the ESG issue. They just Prime Minister said I just have some commitment this morning at the SDG summit and not left no one behind. So at the end, put a lot of around the $500 billion to support the climate issue and ESG issue. That should be good for all the people. It's not do just only for an image. It should be do for the real and make the society to be good in sustainable way.
Thank you. I think what we'll do is maybe open it up if you'd like to comment on the questions, so we don't have to go one at a time. So if you'd like to build on the conversation on carbon tax, and sort of empowerment, if you'd like to talk a little bit about the generational differences or both at the same time, I will open it up to you.
Okay. If you ask me about the difference between like generations, I would say the new generations are more concerned on the environment, because they when they're born, they have seen many catastrophes already, if compared to the old generation that have plenty of resources and very good conditions and the environment and circumstances. So it's more like easier to communicate with younger generations, I would say. But unfortunately, the previous generations are the policymakers. So I think they should be more open-minded to cope with the situation sincerely, that we need to tackle the environmental problems right away. Otherwise, we have no second chance. We at the point of no return. So I think if the government and big corporations create some like laws and policies that can support social enterprise or the small businesses that can operate their businesses in the ESG term, that would be amazing. And also, I think for the best practices from overseas, we can learn from them, such as in Germany, there is like the green dot system, if some of you may know. That is like the system that collects the packaging waste back to the company that have the logo of green dot. And the companies have to pay to the company that's managed this system. And it's very easy to for the packaging waste to be backed into the recycle system. Very different from Thai situation right now, that we have to rely on a group of people, or just like some very informal tools to take the packaging waste back to the recycle system. And I would like to share about the sustainability that our company has relied on, that there should be like 3 dimensions of sustainability, which are the environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and financial sustainability. Reversely, that our company started from the environment and social, rather than big corporations that start from social sustainability. So to give some like knowledge or innovation to small businesses is very important. That can encourage them and help them to create value for their products. That in Thailand we are like the agricultural society, because of the majority of Thai people are in the agricultural industry. So we need to admit that around like 80% of our population are in the agricultural field. So, but the GDP of agricultural products is very low if compared to other industries. So if we give like some knowledge or innovation or technology that can create more value for agricultural products, this can reduce the gap of social inclusion. I mean social equity, sorry. And I think in the long term, if we can reduce this gap, we can like all of the population can access the tools or everything that can make their life have a quality of life. It can like reduce the environmental problems, social problems, and also we need to encourage the transparency and reduce corruption as well in the organizations and also for the society as a whole.
That's great, thank you. And so I'm from a country where we have a carbon tax, where they have used the carbon tax to fund social enterprise. products, or you're using it in environmental innovations, or using it in some of those green tech. So, there are examples that we said around the world where those types of things come together to create change. Bruno, anything you'd like to add?
Probably maybe I add on the carrots and sticks, because on the edge, like I already discussed, for most of us, I'm sure some of you might be familiar that down the road we're going to have the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, right? So it's a big stick, that's going to come sooner or later, right? We don't know how many governments, but at least from our point of view, at least in some of our beverage industry peers, anticipating all these things that are coming. So I think we take a bit of why don't I kind of do my own voluntary EPR and start now, right? Try, learn things. That's why I think maybe I can share this example also about Nestle. We work with Pepsi and Coca-Cola. We come together in the PRO, Packaging Recovery Organization, right? We've been working since 2019 together. And I think that particular approach is appealing for international brands because you are actually not talking, you are walking, right? You will do mistakes, you will learn things. So, we go all the way down to the landfill and go and check really how much PET is in landfill, right? Because at the end, a lot of what you see is bottles are floating in the ocean. Are they really floating in the ocean? At least in Thailand, I can tell you that's not the case. So the reality is when we went to the landfill, there's like 3% PET. You need a lot of digging to find PET. And that's where Terry's point is very valid. We have a very, very strong informal sector who make a living out of this. So actually the collection rate moves with the market rate of PET. Right? During the COVID, PET was super cheap, collection was really low, 50%. Today, oil prices up, PET is going skyrocketing, 84% collection rate. Can you imagine? Wow, difficult to find the bottle, right? So I think my probably also looking at our peers, it's just getting down to doing it and then being very transparent about what you find out and being very open. Like I said, at the end of the day, the planet is the stakeholder, right? There's no planet B, right? All of us have to be here, at least for the foreseeable future, unless Elon Musk gets it across. But I think my approach, I think where we are now being able to kind of also read the sentiments, that at the end of the day, the consumer is forgiving, right? You put it out there, you put out the facts, and of course I think it's a fine line, because the moment brands start talking about ESG, greenwashing, right? So I think that's a constant also, and like I said, right, this topic is all about paradoxes, right? We all want to improve, but if I improve, greenwashing. Right? So I think we are seeing that hurdle, at least in Thailand, even with the NGOs, the social enterprises, they are much more understanding if you are transparent. Right? And of course you need data to back that up. You need to start collecting tons of data, right? Because at the end you will audit, re-audit, external audit, internal audit. By the time you come out to talk about it, the moment is gone. Right? So I think that is going to be the decision call, and for some brave senior management, right, you need to stick your neck out a little bit, right? Otherwise, imagine today, I think just jumping into the age group factor, if I had to tell my ESG story on TikTok, okay, it's impossible, right? Gone. That's it. You have your 3 seconds, you tell your brand, things are gone, right? I think that is going to be the next challenge for all of us, and we need these kind of data. And of course, I think understanding a bit more holistic picture, who is where, right? And then because you don't need to look far, you can look in Europe, you will see the future. Like when Terry mentioned, right? They have even deposit return schemes. You put your bottle, you get your money. You are actually owning a lot of waste asset, right? So I'm starting to see that as well, and if you look around, by the way, also not promoting, but Panelists today has a call service, waste buy. They will come to your door. You give them 3 days, they will come and pick up your waste and weigh the waste, give you the money. come on, that Salim this is the next level Salim, right? So they were almost like, I'm bringing it to your door, anywhere in Bangkok. So I think more and more these kind of things are going to plug into the brand narrative. We have to be ready.
That's great. So I know we're a little tight on time, so I'm going to ask my last question, which then will open up to the audience. So, all of your organizations have been talking about ESG for some time, and I think the rest of our organizations in the room are probably at different parts, different stages of that conversation. What would be your advice to our audience in terms of how to elevate the conversation of ESG within their organizations? Whoever would like to go first.
Shall I go? Yeah, sure. Okay. ESG is not new. Many people think it's only been recent, right? Actually, ESG has been, if you see the genesis of ESG, it started during the first iteration of ESG was during the 1930s stock market crash. And they realized, hey, the rich are still rich, but the poor got burned. You know what I mean? Then in 1950s, during the baby boom, there was this economist, Howard Gordon, who came out with the first book saying the social responsibility of a businessman. And everybody thought it was cuckoo. So nobody thought about ESG anymore. Then it gathered momentum and so on. Remember there was Wall Street, the movie market, that was great, is good. Remember that? But with social media and so on, ESG is becoming front and center of businesses, right? So what started as a cost, now is a business strategy, but make sure don't make it into a scam. Okay? Anything start with a good cost, then it becomes a business strategy, then it becomes a scam. So be true. I believe in many years from now, we might not, the purpose of ESG will still be there, but it might not be called ESG anymore. It might have a different meaning. Because in America, for example, ESG is called a taboo word already. ESG is like negative, remember you mentioned deniers and so on, right? So whether it's called ESG or it's called ABC, whatever, make sure that you're true to your cause. And it's a long game and so on. So to enhance your value proposition, right? Make sure you do good, but at the same time outperform the market, because those two will go hand in hand together, right? Before I pass the floor to Dan, I'm happy to say that, remember we talked about a lot of landfill, informal workers and so on. At Ipsos, we are talking to the government and one of the largest FMCG companies to formalize those workers who are right at the front and center of collecting waste and so on. So we're working with them to tell them, hey, this is your last month, right? Formalize them, and that is part of the ESG and the biggest impact you can make. So.
For me, probably, I think most of us, in one way or another, have ESG clearly within our companies, right? KPIs, dashboards. That's a start, right? Exactly, in my experience, if it's visible, it will move, right? So I think, from my experience, if I could share, do your life cycle assessment, understand what is your footprint, very basic things, right? Even don't need to calculate CO2 at the start. Understand what are you putting in the market, where are you now, right? And have that very clear baseline, because down the road, without that data, you have nothing to fall back on. I think what Ipsos mentioned is a fair, I think a good service, right? To kind of take stock of where you are, where you want to go, and choose your values. Because ESG is quite broad and complex. For instance, when I saw, poverty, inequality, I'm like, how do I help that, right? There's so much tension. But at the end of the day, just to give you examples, when we do some projects, down in Ayutthaya, we do waste markets, because people and Thailand are not going there. It's very deep in the rural, and they said, I have tons of waste. So we said, okay, we'll go, honey, can you come? Collect it from them. We just did it one time. After that, they have their own line group, and every month they call Mopali to come and buy their waste. And again, that I think rings a bell, because yes, if you give it, at the end, nothing is more, money is important, right? And once people realize that, and then they tell their kids, and kids start to collect their waste, because they buy everything. By the way, they even buy, gang and, all this oily stuff. because it goes into the waste to energy projects. Once people realize that, they stop. I mean, the municipality is not collecting enough waste anymore, and people are making money, and then it flies on its own. So I think you have to find those few sweet spots, and you will come to a realization, and then from there your brand narrative. Because at the end of the day, we are still for profit, right? We have stakeholders, we have investors. So to bring that ROI back, you have to be able to create that competitive advantage, and I couldn't agree more, right? At the end of the day, maybe, I mean, it's never going to be like, I can do good for the planet, I do it, but then I'm losing share, and I'm not performing anymore, right? I think if you are able to do that at the day one, you know what you want, one battle at a time, you will start to see all these dots start to connect. That's my feel.
As I already mentioned about don't take the ESG as an extra work. Take it as opportunities that you can grow sustainably. Like our company, we started from the obstacles, the eager to tackle the obstacles, but we are gradually growing for 3 years already. I couldn't imagine how far that our company can go at this point. And don't take it as an option as well. It should be a mandate for our global situation right now. And many people jump onto the bandwagon. Unfortunately, maybe it's like a fashion, but if you do it for real, you be authentic, you will be the last that can grow sustainably. And I think if you apply ESG, it will benefit your companies, truly benefits your company. I believe so. So we should collaborate with every stakeholder and follow the way of sustainability, and this will help your corporations to grow more and more, and don't only rely on reports. Just only reports. You should assess the actions, the real actions that happened at that time and compare with it. And if you are the company, especially when you are the company in the stock markets, it needs to have one report, right? That we have to reflect on our corporation's management. So let's figure the way that how can you be more sustainable every day. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I will put it this way. I think most of people, when we talk about ESG, they think about CSR. They think about CSR. My assignment from CEO, my CEO assigned me to look after the sustainability last 2 years. He's saying that I'm not doing a CSR. I try to do the way to embed the sustainability to the business and find the opportunities to run the business in terms of climate or other things that it should be. So I think you should clarify that it's not a CSR issue, it is the business issue. And if you think like that, when you talk about was saying that ROI, ROE, what else? And if you think about ROE with your shareholders or your board around the investment, I don't think that it's feasible. But I think that it should be ROCC. What is return on carbon credit? Is it true? That's cool. This is the way I try to convince our board members that why we should do this project. And I will say that like this, if you need to make it happen, we have two things that you should remember. One, you should have a belief from the board. This should be a very important thing, because most of people, they say that you are doing good, that's good, that's good, that's good. But when we spend a lot of money, they should think twice, and they think that why we should spend a lot of money like this. So another thing is money. If you don't have money, I will say like this, do ESG, you should have people, you should have a profit, and if you don't have these two, you cannot make it happen. And the last is you get a better planet. That's the third P.
So that's a wonderful way to wrap it up, I'd like to say. Again, thank you to our panelists for sharing all of those great insights. We have a few minutes left, so I open to the floor. If you have questions for our panelists, we're happy to send the microphone out roaming if you'd like to ask. It seems not. It seems we have lots of provocative things that we have floating in the